The neighborhood was quiet and calm, with tree-lined streets and houses that looked like they had been painted straight out of a magazine. Every lawn was neat, and flower beds were carefully tended. It was the kind of place where people waved at each other when they passed, and where the biggest concern was usually who had the best barbecue on the weekend. The couple had recently moved into this neighborhood. They had been dreaming of this kind of life for years, wanting a place that felt safe and peaceful. A place where they could relax after work and enjoy their weekends without stress. They had spent months searching for the right house, looking at dozens of properties until they finally found one that felt perfect. The house was modest but charming, with a small porch, a garden that could easily bloom with the right touch, and a backyard that opened up to a line of old, friendly trees. The moment they stepped inside, they knew this was the place where they wanted to start the next chapter of their lives. Moving in was a big task, of course. Boxes were everywhere, furniture had to be arranged, and there were endless trips to the store to pick up what was missing. But even with all the work, there was a sense of excitement in the air, a sense of hope that came with new beginnings. The neighbors had been polite and friendly, waving from their driveways, offering small smiles, and sometimes stopping to say hello. Most people seemed to enjoy the calmness of the neighborhood and respected each other's space, which was exactly what the couple had hoped for. But as with any neighborhood, there were always a few who felt it was their duty to monitor everyone else. One woman in particular had a reputation. She was known to be very particular about rules and regulations, always watching the smallest details and not hesitating to complain if something seemed out of place. Some neighbors called her Karen behind her back, a nickname that spread quickly because of her constant interventions. From what they could see, she had a strong personality and an unwavering belief that she knew the best way to manage the neighborhood. Whether or not anyone had asked for her advice, at first, the couple tried to stay under the radar, doing their best to follow all the neighborhood rules. They mowed their lawn regularly, kept their garden neat, and even made sure the color of their shutters matched the expectations of the HOA. It was not that they wanted to live by someone else's rules, but they wanted to avoid unnecessary problems. They enjoyed their life, and they wanted their home to be a place of comfort, not conflict. For a while, everything went smoothly. The couple settled into a comfortable routine. They would have coffee on the porch in the mornings, walk the dog around the block, and sometimes stop to chat with the neighbors. Evenings were spent cooking dinner together, planning the garden, or just relaxing on the couch. Life was simple, peaceful, and exactly what they had hoped for. But it didn't take long before they noticed Karen's presence in the neighborhood. She seemed to appear whenever someone made the slightest change to their property, whether it was planting flowers, painting a fence, or moving a car. It became clear that she had a habit of monitoring everyone closely, as if she had an invisible checklist of things that needed correction. At first, the couple tried to ignore her. They didn't want to create conflict or draw attention to themselves. But Karen was persistent. One day a letter appeared in their mailbox. It was neatly typed, formal, and signed by her. The letter claimed that a certain type of plant in their garden was not allowed according to HOA rules. The wording was strict, almost cold, and it demanded that the plant be removed immediately. The husband read the letter aloud to his wife, feeling a mix of surprise and irritation. They had chosen the plants because they loved them, not because they wanted to break any rules. The wife read through the HOA regulations and realized that Karen had misunderstood or misrepresented the rules entirely. She calmly suggested that they respond politely, but firmly, pointing out the actual rules and asking for clarification if necessary. They decided to wait for a day before responding, hoping that a simple explanation might resolve the matter. The next day, Karen showed up at their door. She was loud, sharp, and clearly expected to intimidate them. Her voice carried over the small front yard. She gestured wildly at the plant, insisting that it needed to be removed immediately. The husband stepped forward, trying to explain that they had checked the rules and that the plant was allowed. He spoke politely, hoping to calm her down, but she ignored him, repeating the same demands over and over. The situation felt tense and awkward. It seemed that Karen was used to people backing down under her pressure, and she had clearly assumed that the man in front of her would do the same. But before the conversation could escalate further, the wife stepped forward. She had been quietly observing, taking in Karen's tone, gestures, and attitude. With a calm but firm voice, she asked Karen to show her the specific rule she was referencing. Karen shuffled through her papers, clearly not expecting anyone to challenge her. The wife's questions were precise, focusing on the exact wording of the regulations and past examples of similar situations. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't show frustration. She simply asked clear, logical questions. Karen hesitated, caught off guard by the attention to detail. She had expected compliance, not scrutiny. The couple listened silently as Karen fumbled through her notes, growing visibly frustrated. The wife pointed out the discrepancies she had found, citing HOA bylaws that supported their position. She even suggested that they could request a formal ruling from the HOA board if necessary, making it clear that they were willing to follow the process correctly. Karen's face reddened. It was obvious that she had underestimated them, especially the wife, who seemed to command the situation without raising her voice or showing anger. The husband felt a mixture of pride and relief. He had always known that his wife was intelligent and capable, but seeing her handle a tense situation with such poise was impressive. Karen eventually left, muttering under her breath, and the couple closed the door. The tension did not disappear immediately, but the couple felt a sense of accomplishment. They had handled a difficult situation calmly, without escalating it further, and had established that they were not easy to intimidate. In the following days, the couple continued to enjoy their life in the neighborhood. They watered their garden, took long walks, and slowly unpacked the remaining boxes from the move. But Karen's presence lingered. She would drive by occasionally, glance at their property, and sometimes stop to speak with neighbors, presumably trying to gather support for her complaints. Yet every time she appeared, the couple remained calm, remembering that they had already demonstrated their willingness and ability to handle challenges. The wife began keeping a record of all HOA communications, documenting dates, times, and details of interactions. It was not out of fear, but out of preparedness. She understood that knowledge and organization were powerful tools, especially when dealing with someone who thrived on creating conflict. The husband continued to support her, admiring her calmness and precision. He realized that their life in the neighborhood would require vigilance and patience, but also that they had the skills and mindset to navigate any challenge that came their way. Slowly, they found their rhythm. Mornings were for coffee and planning, afternoons for errands or work, and evenings for relaxation and conversation. The neighborhood remained calm for the most part, but the couple knew that the next encounter with Karen could happen at any time. Yet instead of fear or frustration, they approached the situation with confidence, knowing they had each other and the knowledge to respond wisely. Life was settling into a balance of peace, awareness, and quiet strength, laying the foundation for the challenges and triumphs that were yet to come. The couple understood that living in this neighborhood meant more than just following rules. It meant understanding the dynamics, respecting the community, and being prepared to stand their ground when necessary. And so, the days passed, with a mix of calm routines and the occasional tense moment, all under the watchful eye of Karen. But one thing was certain: the couple had proven that they were not to be underestimated, and that, even in a quiet, picture-perfect neighborhood, strength and intelligence could shine quietly, but unmistakably. The next few days after the first encounter with Karen were filled with a quiet but tense energy. The couple tried to go about their normal routines, but there was always the thought in the back of their minds that Karen could appear at a why moment, ready to challenge them again. Despite this, they remained calm and focused on enjoying their new home. The husband spent time arranging the garden and fixing small things around the house. He wanted everything to be in perfect order, not to appease anyone, but because it brought him joy. The wife, meanwhile, focused on organizing their home and keeping track of all HOA communications. She reviewed the rules and regulations carefully, noting every detail that could help them in the future. She understood that knowledge was power, and that being prepared could prevent unnecessary conflicts. Karen, however, was not one to back down easily. She had already begun spreading her complaints among the neighbors, trying to rally support for her side of the story. It was clear she expected the couple to feel intimidated or unsure, but instead, they chose to remain composed. The husband and wife quietly discussed how to handle any future confrontations. They agreed that remaining calm, polite, and well-informed would always be their strategy. They did not want to fight unnecessarily, but they were ready to stand their ground if needed. One afternoon, Karen appeared at their front door unannounced. She was as loud and aggressive as before, expecting to catch them off guard. The husband opened the door and tried to speak calmly. But Karen immediately began pointing out another minor detail that she claimed was a violation of HOA rules. This time, she was even more assertive, her tone sharp and demanding. The wife, who had been inside the house observing, stepped forward once again. She did not raise her voice or show any signs of anger. Instead, she greeted Karen politely and asked her to clarify the specific rule she was referencing. Karen hesitated, surprised that the wife was confident and prepared to discuss the issue calmly. The wife asked detailed questions, carefully listening to Karen's responses and pointing out inconsistencies in her claims. She referenced the HOA guidelines accurately, showing that she had done her homework. Karen grew frustrated, realizing that she could not easily intimidate this couple. She tried to bring up past complaints she had made, hoping to catch them off guard, but the wife was ready for every point. She calmly explained how the complaints were either mistaken or irrelevant, providing clear examples and referencing specific rules. The husband watched quietly, impressed by how effortlessly his wife handled the situation. He realized that her calm demeanor and precise knowledge were disarming Karen, who had clearly underestimated her. Karen eventually muttered under her breath and left the property, still frustrated but unable to push the couple into compliance. The husband and wife closed the door, taking a moment to reflect on what had just happened. They knew that this was not the end of Karen's attempts to control or intimidate them, but they felt a sense of accomplishment. They had handled the confrontation calmly, without anger, and had set a boundary that could not be easily crossed. Over the next few days, the couple continued to live their life as usual. They went on walks, tended to their garden, and continued to unpack and organize their home. They even hosted a small get-together for some of their neighbors, which helped them build friendly relationships within the community. During these interactions, they learned more about Karen's history and her reputation. Many neighbors quietly admitted that they had dealt with her aggressive behavior before, and that she often overstepped boundaries. This gave the couple a better understanding of what they were dealing with and reinforced their decision to remain calm and prepared. The wife continued to organize all HOA communications meticulously. She created a folder for letters, emails, and notes, ensuring that every detail was documented. She also started keeping a calendar of any HOA-related deadlines or meetings, making sure that they would never miss an important date. Her attention to detail gave the couple a sense of security, knowing that they had a clear record of any interactions with Karen or the HOA. One day, Karen decided to escalate her efforts. She sent another formal letter, this time claiming that the couple had violated multiple HOA rules at once. The letter was aggressive in tone, filled with demands and warnings about potential fines. The husband read the letter aloud, feeling a mix of irritation and amusement. He knew that responding angrily would only give Karen more satisfaction. Instead, the wife calmly drafted a response. She addressed each point in the letter with precision, referencing the exact rules and explaining why their actions were fully compliant. She even included suggestions for resolving any misunderstandings, demonstrating her willingness to cooperate while firmly standing her ground. When the letter was sent, Karen was visibly frustrated. She had expected fear or submission, but instead, she encountered reason and preparedness. Her usual tactics of intimidation were ineffective against a couple who had taken the time to understand the rules and were confident in their rights. Life in the neighborhood continued, but the dynamic had changed. The couple was no longer seen as passive or easily intimidated. Neighbors began to view them with respect, recognizing the wife's skill and the husband's calm support. Even Karen seemed to take notice, though she refused to admit it openly. She continued to monitor the couple, but she approached them with caution, knowing that any attempt to provoke a reaction would be met with calm and knowledge rather than fear. The husband and wife continued to enjoy their life together, focusing on the things that brought them happiness. They spent evenings planning their garden, working on home projects, and taking quiet walks around the neighborhood. The small moments of joy and connection reminded them that their life was about more than conflicts and complaints. It was about building a home and a life together. Despite the challenges posed by Karen, the couple felt a growing sense of confidence. They knew that they could handle difficult situations calmly and effectively, and they were prepared for whatever might come next. The experience had strengthened their relationship and taught them the value of knowledge, patience, and quiet determination. One afternoon, the couple decided to take a break from the tension and enjoy a simple picnic in their backyard. They set up a small table with snacks and drinks, sitting together and watching the sun filter through the trees. For a while, they allowed themselves to forget about Karen and the HOA disputes, focusing instead on the peace and beauty of their surroundings. As they enjoyed their time together, they discussed future plans for their home and garden, dreaming about the life they wanted to build. They knew that challenges would come and go, but they were confident in their ability to face them together. In these moments, they found strength and reassurance in each other, realizing that their bond was the true foundation of their home. Karen's presence was still felt, but it no longer held the power to disrupt their lives. The couple had learned to respond with calm, knowledge, and confidence, setting the stage for whatever challenges lay ahead. The neighborhood, once seen as a place of potential conflict, had become a space where they could thrive, assert themselves respectfully, and enjoy the life they had worked so hard to create. And so, they continued their journey, ready to face future confrontations with the same calm strength and unwavering resolve that had carried them through the first challenges of their new home. As weeks passed, the couple settled further into the rhythm of their neighborhood. Though Karen's presence lingered in the background, she seemed to take a special interest in them, often driving past their house, peering at the garden, and sometimes speaking to neighbors in hushed, sharp tones. It became clear that she could not simply let things go, and she had made it her mission to challenge the couple whenever she could. The husband continued with his routines, tending to the garden, organizing home improvements, and making sure everything around the house was in order. He found joy in these simple tasks and took pride in the way their home was shaping up. But it was the wife who truly became the unseen force behind the scenes. She had taken it upon herself to study all HOA regulations, past meeting notes, and records of complaints. She began to anticipate what Karen might do next, always planning 2 steps ahead. The more she learned, the more confident she became. One afternoon, Karen appeared again at their door, holding yet another stack of papers. She was visibly frustrated, muttering about violations and rules that she claimed were being ignored. The husband opened the door as usual and tried to respond politely, explaining that they had been following the rules to the best of their knowledge. Karen, however, expected defiance or hesitation, and she was determined to assert control. The wife, who had been observing quietly from inside, stepped forward once more. This time she carried with her a binder filled with notes, references, and copies of the HOA bylaws. Karen's eyes widened slightly, clearly surprised that the wife was not only prepared but also confident. Calmly, the wife asked Karen to explain her complaints one by one. For each complaint, she provided a clear response, citing the exact section of the rules that applied. Her tone was firm but polite, showing authority without aggression. Karen attempted to interrupt, to raise her voice, or to insist on her interpretation, but the wife remained unshaken. She addressed every point logically, pointing out where Karen's claims were mistaken or irrelevant. She even suggested solutions that would satisfy the HOA's intent without compromising the couple's property. The husband watched in quiet admiration. He had always known his wife was intelligent, but seeing her handle someone as aggressive and persistent as Karen with such poise was remarkable. Karen grew increasingly flustered. She realized that her usual tactics of intimidation would not work here. She tried to bring up past complaints, hoping to overwhelm them, but the wife anticipated this and had prepared responses for every scenario. Eventually, Karen gave up and left, muttering under her breath. The couple closed the door, taking a deep breath. They knew that while Karen had left for now, this was far from over. But they also knew that they had set a boundary that could not easily be crossed. The experience gave them confidence, reinforcing the importance of preparation and calmness in the face of confrontation. The days following this encounter brought a sense of quiet satisfaction. The couple continued with their routines, taking care of the home, gardening, and enjoying time together. The wife continued to organize every piece of correspondence and every interaction with the HOA, ensuring that they were always prepared. Karen, on the other hand, seemed to be plotting her next move. She would often be seen speaking with other residents, trying to gather support for her complaints. But it was clear that her influence was limited. Many neighbors quietly respected the couple for standing their ground and handling the situation with intelligence rather than anger. One afternoon, the wife discovered a small error in a recent HOA notice. Most people would have ignored it, but she carefully documented the mistake and prepared a polite clarification to the board. It was a small victory, but it reminded the couple that attention to detail and patience could make a significant difference. The husband helped her with small tasks, feeling proud to be part of a partnership that approached challenges with strategy rather than emotion. As the weeks went by, the couple began to notice that their neighbors were watching more closely. They were not watching in the way Karen did, with judgment or criticism, but with curiosity and admiration. People would occasionally stop to ask questions about how they had handled certain situations or seek advice on dealing with their own minor disputes. The couple found themselves becoming informal mentors in the neighborhood, quietly respected for their calm and intelligent approach. Karen, however, did not give up. She organized another attempt to assert authority, this time planning to involve the HOA board directly. She sent another letter filled with complaints, threats, and demands, hoping that the formal authority of the board would finally pressure the couple into compliance. The wife reviewed the letter carefully, noting every claim, every reference, and every implied threat. She calmly prepared a detailed response, addressing each point with precision and logic. Her writing was clear, firm, and professional, leaving no room for misinterpretation. She included references to the exact HOA regulations, past precedents, and suggested compromises that maintained the couple's rights while demonstrating respect for the community. When the board received the response, it became evident that the couple had anticipated every argument and prepared for every scenario. Karen was shocked. She had assumed that the couple would falter under the weight of her complaints. Instead, they had demonstrated knowledge, composure, and strategic thinking. The board members, impressed by the thoroughness and professionalism of the response, acknowledged that the couple had acted within their rights and that Karen's complaints were largely unfounded. This was a turning point. Karen could no longer rely on intimidation alone. She had to confront the fact that her tactics were ineffective. The couple continued their routines, enjoying the simple pleasures of life. They tended to their garden, organized home projects, and spent evenings planning future improvements. The husband often watched his wife with admiration, realizing that her quiet strength and meticulous preparation had transformed what could have been a stressful situation into a manageable one. Over time, the neighborhood began to recognize the shift in power. Karen's attempts to assert dominance were met with polite but firm resistance. She began to lose influence among the residents. The couple, on the other hand, became quietly respected figures, known for their calm approach, intelligence, and unwavering adherence to the rules. Even small interactions with neighbors carried an air of respect and admiration. As people recognized the couple's ability to navigate challenges without conflict, life continued with a balance of calm, routine, and occasional tension, but the couple felt secure in their approach. They had learned the importance of preparation, patience, and calm authority. They had discovered that strength did not always need to be loud or aggressive. Sometimes it was quiet, deliberate, and unwavering. And so, as the days turned into weeks, the couple continued to build their life together, confident in their ability to face any challenge that might come their way. Karen's presence remained, but it no longer held the power to disrupt their peace. They had proven, through calm intelligence and careful preparation, that they could handle any confrontation, and in doing so, had earned the respect of their neighbors and the quiet satisfaction that comes from standing firmly and wisely in one's own rights. As the weeks passed, Karen became more determined. She was no longer content with sending letters or making unannounced visits. She decided to escalate the situation by organizing a formal HOA meeting. hoping that the presence of the board and other residents would finally put pressure on the couple. The husband and wife received the notice about the meeting with a sense of calm preparedness. They had faced Karen's confrontations before, and now they had a clear strategy. The wife reviewed all documents, past letters, and HOA rules once again, ensuring that she had everything ready to respond logically and accurately. She even prepared a small binder for reference during the meeting. The husband offered his support, helping with small preparations and running through potential scenarios with her. He felt a mixture of pride and curiosity, eager to see how the situation would unfold in a more formal setting. On the day of the meeting, the room was filled with residents, board members, and of course Karen. Her demeanor was confident, almost smug. She began presenting her complaints one by one. She expected the couple to falter under the scrutiny of an audience, but they remained composed, listening carefully and preparing to respond. When it was their turn, the wife spoke first. She addressed each complaint clearly, referencing the exact rules and past precedents. Her tone was calm but firm, exuding authority without aggression. Karen tried to interrupt, raising her voice and insisting on her interpretation, but the wife remained unshaken. She patiently answered every question, providing evidence and logical explanations for every point. The husband supported her quietly, ready to step in if needed, but the wife handled most of the interaction herself. The board members began to take notice of her meticulous preparation. They could see that the couple had thoroughly reviewed all relevant documents and had considered every aspect of the complaints. Their professionalism stood in stark contrast to Karen's emotional and often exaggerated claims. Karen attempted to use past complaints and minor issues to strengthen her case, but the wife had anticipated these moves. She calmly explained why these claims were either irrelevant or inaccurate, citing specific HOA guidelines and previous decisions that supported their position. The audience of residents watched in silence, clearly impressed by the wife's poise and knowledge. Many whispered quietly to one another, acknowledging that Karen had underestimated the couple. Karen's frustration grew with each passing moment. Her usual tactics of intimidation were failing, and the more she tried to assert control, the more she revealed her lack of preparation. Finally, the wife concluded her presentation with a summary of the key points, emphasizing that they had acted within their rights, followed all rules, and were willing to cooperate in good faith. She spoke with clarity and authority, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The board members discussed the matter quietly among themselves. After a brief pause, they addressed the room, acknowledging that the couple had complied with all relevant rules and that Karen's complaints were largely unfounded. Karen's face flushed with embarrassment as her attempt to dominate the meeting had failed. She had assumed that the formal setting would intimidate the couple, but instead, it highlighted their preparation, intelligence, and calm authority. The couple left the meeting feeling a sense of relief and accomplishment. They knew that Karen might still attempt to challenge them in the future, but this was a major turning point. They had faced a high-stakes confrontation and emerged not only unscathed, but respected. In the following days, the neighborhood began to notice the shift in dynamics. Karen was no longer able to dominate conversations or rally support for her complaints. The couple, on the other hand, gained quiet respect from neighbors, who admired their calm and logical approach. Even casual interactions carried a sense of recognition and appreciation for their composure. Life slowly returned to a more peaceful rhythm. The couple tended to their garden, worked on home projects, and spent time enjoying simple pleasures together. The husband often reflected on how much he had underestimated his wife's abilities in handling conflict. He admired her strategic thinking, patience, and calm demeanor, realizing that her approach had completely neutralized Karen's attempts at control. Karen, meanwhile, continued to monitor the couple from a distance, but she no longer had the confidence or influence she once believed she possessed. Her attempts to assert authority were met with polite resistance or ignored altogether. The couple continued documenting all interactions, maintaining a record of communications and decisions. This practice gave them a sense of security and confidence, knowing that they were always prepared and that their actions were fully compliant with the rules. Over time, the neighborhood began to see the couple not just as residents, but as figures of authority and calm intelligence. People would occasionally seek advice or simply observe how they handled interactions with the HOA and Karen. The couple had set a standard for respectful, knowledgeable, and assertive behavior. One evening, the couple sat on their porch, enjoying the cool breeze and the quiet of the neighborhood. They reflected on the journey so far, realizing that the challenges posed by Karen had strengthened their relationship and given them valuable skills in dealing with conflict. They laughed quietly about how they had initially underestimated the situation and the person they were dealing with, appreciating the growth and confidence they had gained. As the sun set, they felt a sense of accomplishment. They had faced confrontation, stood their ground, poser, and maintained their composure, earning respect not only from the HOA board and neighbors, but from themselves. They knew that life in the neighborhood would continue to bring small challenges, but they felt equipped to handle anything that came their way. Karen's presence remained, but it no longer carried the power to intimidate or disrupt their peace. The couple had transformed what could have been a stressful and draining experience into an opportunity to demonstrate intelligence, patience, and quiet strength. They understood that true authority did not require loudness or aggression. It could be demonstrated through preparation, knowledge, and calm resolve. The couple continued to live their lives with a sense of confidence and calm, tending to their home and garden, enjoying their daily routines, and planning for the future. They had learned to navigate conflicts with grace, turning potential challenges into opportunities for growth and demonstrating that standing firm with reason and preparation was far more powerful than anger or intimidation. And so, life in the neighborhood carried on, with the couple quietly respected and Karen learning, slowly and reluctantly, that her attempts at control were no longer effective. The couple's bond grew stronger, their confidence soared, and their sense of peace returned, all built on the foundation of calm authority, meticulous preparation, and unwavering resolve. Time passed, and life in the neighborhood slowly settled into a rhythm that was peaceful, respectful, and much more enjoyable for the couple. The tension that Karen had created over the past weeks and months gradually eased, leaving only the occasional reminders of her presence, which were no longer intimidating. The couple had grown stronger, wiser, and more confident through the experiences they had shared. They spent their mornings enjoying coffee on the porch, watching the sun rise and listening to the soft rustle of leaves in the trees. The husband tended to the garden, planting new flowers and trimming bushes, while the wife organized home projects, kept detailed records, and reviewed HOA updates to ensure they remained well-informed. Even though Karen still lurked in the background, her power to disrupt had diminished significantly. Neighbors began to recognize the couple as someone who could navigate challenges with intelligence and calm authority. People would occasionally stop by to ask advice about minor neighborhood issues or simply to talk about how to approach disputes with grace. The couple, without seeking attention, became examples of composure, strategy, and respectfulness. One afternoon, Karen attempted to stir conflict once more. She sent a letter filled with grievances and demands, clearly hoping to provoke the couple into a response fueled by irritation. The wife, however, calmly reviewed the letter, making notes and identifying every claim that could be addressed. She then drafted a concise, polite, and precise response, addressing every point while citing the rules and regulations accurately. The husband assisted by double-checking references and offering suggestions for clarity. When the letter was returned to Karen and the board, it was clear that the couple had prepared for every potential angle. Karen, expecting frustration or confrontation, was met instead with composed professionalism. Her tactics of intimidation no longer worked, and she began to realize that her efforts to control or dominate were ineffective. The board acknowledged the couple's adherence to the rules and the clarity of their responses, further solidifying their position in the neighborhood. Over time, the couple's confidence in handling disputes grew. They were no longer anxious about potential conflicts, knowing that preparation, patience, and calm reasoning were more effective than fear or aggression. They had learned to anticipate challenges, respond logically, and maintain their dignity throughout every encounter. Karen, meanwhile, became quieter and less influential. She had underestimated the couple's abilities from the beginning, and was now faced with the undeniable reality that her attempts to assert authority had failed. Her influence on other residents dwindled as neighbors quietly respected the couple's approach. The couple's relationship also grew stronger through these experiences. Facing challenges together had reinforced their partnership and highlighted the value of trust, support, and shared decision-making. The husband admired his wife's intelligence and poise, realizing that her calm determination was the key to navigating difficult situations. The wife appreciated her husband's quiet support, his patience, and his willingness to trust her judgment. Life gradually returned to a routine filled with small joys, personal projects, and moments of quiet reflection. The couple continued to tend their garden, make home improvements, and enjoy the neighborhood's calm atmosphere. They hosted small gatherings with neighbors, fostering a sense of community and friendship that contrasted sharply with Karen's attempts to create conflict. In these gatherings, the couple shared experiences and knowledge without arrogance or confrontation. They quietly became mentors, guiding others on how to navigate disputes and emphasizing the importance of preparation, patience, and calm reasoning. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, the couple sat on their porch, reflecting on everything that had happened. They laughed quietly about the early days of moving in, when they had been nervous about Karen's presence, and marveled at how far they had come. The experiences that once seemed stressful and challenging had now become opportunities for growth, learning, and strengthening their bond. They discussed future plans for the house and garden, dreaming about ways to improve their home and enjoy their life together even more. They were no longer concerned about small complaints or misunderstandings, and knowing that they had the skills and mindset to handle any situation calmly and effectively. Neighbors continued to notice the couple's composed approach, and a quiet respect for them grew in the community. People saw that the couple could handle conflicts without aggression, that they were prepared, and that they approached challenges with intelligence and patience. Karen's influence diminished further, and while she still occasionally voiced complaints, the impact of her actions was minimal. She could no longer disrupt the couple's life or the peace of the neighborhood. The couple's sense of security and confidence became a foundation for their daily lives. They understood the importance of preparation, documentation, and clear communication, not only for dealing with HOA disputes, but also for navigating life's challenges more broadly. They recognized that standing firm with reason, patience, and calm authority was far more powerful than responding with anger or frustration. Over the following months, the neighborhood grew closer. The couple continued to enjoy friendly interactions with neighbors, offer guidance when needed, and maintain a calm, respectful presence. Life became a balance of routines, personal projects, and small pleasures. With the occasional reminder that challenges were a normal part of any community, each challenge that arose was met with preparation and composure, testament to the lessons learned from their encounters with Karen. The couple's bond grew stronger with every shared experience. They understood that their ability to handle conflict, support one another, maintain calm authority, had not only resolved disputes, but also reinforced their relationship. Their partnership had become a model of respect, patience, and strategic thinking, valued not only by themselves, but by the community around them. In time, even Karen began to fade from the daily concerns of the neighborhood. Her presence became less impactful. Her attempts to assert control were met with polite indifference or logical responses that left no room for escalation. The couple had transformed a potentially stressful and confrontational situation into one of growth, respect, and confidence. As the couple continued to enjoy their life together, they reflected on the journey they had taken. They had faced challenges, stood firm, and learned the power of calm authority, preparation, and intelligence. Their experiences had strengthened not only their relationship,